Hey there, I'm in my bathroom today so that I can review the Hydro-Right Dual Flush Conversion Kit, and as the name implies, it converts a standard toilet into a dual flush so that you have a small flush and a large flush depending on how much and what you're sending down to the sewer. And so it's a great way of saving water. There's a lot of different similar kits out there. Hydro-Right, they make 3 different kits. The difference between the 3 being the actuator here. I went with push buttons here for small and large. They have another one where the handle kind of hangs down and you pull it different directions depending on what you want. And the third model has more of a conventional handle that sticks out, and there's actually 2 handles on it, and you push the outside one for a large or the inside one for a small. So these kits, they're sold all over. You can get them Home Depot, Lowe's, Amazon, and they're not that expensive. They're about $30 plus or minus $5 depending on which of the kits you get. And it's a great way to save water. They actually save water in 4 different ways. Obviously, by having a selector to choose the size of the flush, you can save a ton of water. They say on average 4 out of 5 flushes could use a liquid-only flush and don't need the solid flush. So that allows you to save a lot of water. Every time you use the small flush in lieu of a large flush, you're saving about 1 gallon of water by using that. So that's a great way to save water. The second way you can save water, so on the large flush itself, this kit allows you to adjust how much water goes down with both the small and the large. So you can adjust and send just the right amount of water down with the large flush and potentially save water over your current standard flapper. The third way you can save water, it's a little harder to explain, but so when you flush a toilet, this right here, this is called the fill valve, and it has 2 jobs. First thing it does is it has to refill the tank here with water. But the second thing it does is this pipe here goes down into the overflow tube, and that leads directly down into the bowl. And so it does 2 things. As it's filling the tank, it's simultaneously filling the bowl, because all the water in the bowl swirled and went down the drain. But you know, when you look, there's water in there still, so it had to put that water back in there. Now the key is it fills both simultaneously. You can't stop one until the other one's done. So when the tank fills, that's when it shuts off. But usually the bowl fills up first, so all that extra water while it's waiting for the tank to fill goes into the bowl, but the bowl can only hold so much, so all that extra water literally goes over the trap, down the drain into the sewer. You don't even see that happening. You don't even realize it's happening, but all that water goes down the drain. And it can add up. I've actually measured a couple different toilets. I've measured one toilet that was almost a half gallon of water per flush is going down the drain in this fashion. I'd say probably on average, maybe a quart of water is a good estimate for a toilet to waste in this fashion. But this particular kit has this green lever right here, lets you adjust how much flow is going over there. So you can fine tune it so that you're not sending extra water over the trap and into the drain. And the fourth way this kit saves water is toilets are actually notorious for having a lot of leaks. The flapper and all the other seals leak a lot. And usually people don't even realize it because the leak, again, just goes into the bowl and then into the drain, into the sewer, and you don't even realize it. But by putting a kit in, you're replacing all those rubber seals and gaskets with brand new, fresh stuff. So you're going to stop all those leaks. And so that's the fourth way in which you can save water. Now, I'm a big fan of this kit. You can really save a lot of water by using this. Now, that said, you know, this kit is not perfect. It does have some issues, which I'll point out, and because these issues aren't going to necessarily affect everyone. So for me here, on this particular one, if you're sitting on the toilet and you have the lid up, unfortunately, as you can see, the lid interferes with the button here. So if you're sitting on it and you want to flush, or if you're cleaning the toilet and you need to flush, you have to lower the lid. So, you know, if you had a different handle that stuck out here, or if your toilet was wider, then that may not be an issue. But on my particular toilet, it hits there, so it interferes. And that's actually a second problem. I don't like that this lid actually physically hits this, whereas usually or previously, it came to rest on the porcelain lid here. So it's hitting this every time, and just makes me wonder, you know, is this piece of plastic here going to break in time from having the lid smack into it? So those are a couple of issues. Some other issues, I wish I could say that the kit is easy to install. It's not that it's hard, but it takes time, especially to install and configure it properly. There are a lot of adjustments with this kit. I forget exactly how many, but I mean, in addition to this valve you have to adjust. This one here is the float valve adjustment, and there's also a couple adjustments on here. So there's just a lot of things on here you need to adjust. This here, you can actually adjust the height up and down. So there's probably like 5 different things you need to adjust and get working. And unfortunately, it's probably not going to be something everyone wants to tackle. But if you're up to the challenge and if you're handy, it's easy to install. It just takes time. A couple of tips I will give on installation. So this piece here, I forget what they call it, but it mounts onto the overflow tube. And down in there, so you can see there's a zip tie that kind of squeezes onto that tube and holds it in place. And I read a tip online. Someone was saying that the zip tie that came with his kit was pretty weak and it broke, and so he had to get a new one. And when I put my kits on, I was very surprised to see that zip tie they give you from the factory is very thin, very small. So even before I installed mine, the first thing I did was I cut that zip tie off, and I went and found the biggest, beefiest zip tie I had that would still fit in there. So if you're installing this kit, I'd recommend just cut off the factory zip tie and put a thicker zip tie on there. Second tip, so this unit here, again, when you're putting it on the overflow tube, you have to push it down and then tighten that zip tie. Don't, put a lot of pressure on that when you're pushing it down. Don't be ginger and easy with it. Push down fairly hard. The first time I installed this, I didn't push that piece down hard enough, and I had leaks around that seal, so I had to redo it. So don't be afraid to push that down. Now this kit can be installed in either the older toilets or the newer low flow toilets. In fact, this is a newer 1.6 gallon low flow toilet, and it fits and operates perfectly in here. Now if you're trying to decide whether or not to install it, if you have one of the older toilets, which is not a modern low flow toilet, I would highly recommend this kit. You will save so much money, so much water, that it is definitely worth it. If you have a low flow toilet like this, I would still recommend it, but that's where you're going to run into more difficulties with installation and whatnot. It's, first off, your benefit is going to be reduced. You're not going to save as much money because your toilet was efficient to begin with. But installation, as you can see, like, everything's crammed in here pretty tight. It was not easy to get hands down in here for installation. So installing it, you'll have to be a little more dedicated if you have a low flow toilet like this. Secondly, again, because I have a low flow toilet, that's why the tank is so narrow, and that's why I have the lid hitting here. So that's might be an issue for you. Whereas older tanks, they're so much wider that the buttons are out here and totally clear. It shouldn't be a problem. So it's going to be up to you if you're willing to tackle this for low flow toilets. But if you have one of the older toilets, I highly recommend installing this. One thing that I wasn't expecting with this kit is, after installing it, our toilets actually work better than they did before. And that's actually kind of in a couple ways. First off, before installing this kit, our toilets would plug maybe an average of 3-4 times a month. And since installing this kit in the 4 or 5 months we've had it, I think we've had a single clog. So the toilet functions better. And I think the reason why is it has to do with the design of the flapper on this. A standard flapper, when it comes up, you basically can have water coming in from 3 sides. But the flapper on this literally just goes straight up and straight down. And so when it goes up, you can have water coming in from all 360 degrees. And what determines how well a toilet flushes is A, how much water is going in there, but also B, how fast that water is going in there. So even though with this kit you're sending less water, you're sending it into the bowl faster, and so it flushes better because of that. So that was kind of an unexpected bonus. You know, we had fewer clogs on our toilet, which is nice. And the second thing, which is kind of nice, again, because you have a selector on the flush size here, the tank fills up faster after flushing. Even if you use the large flush, the tank fills up faster than it did on the old one. So if you have a couple people wanting to use the toilet one after another, they don't have to wait as long for the toilet to be ready to be used again. It just fills up a lot quicker. So yeah, that's my review of the dual flush conversion kit. Again, I recommend this for anyone. You might have to spend a little bit of time installing it and adjusting it to get it just right, but once you do, this kit works great, and we are saving a lot of water and a lot of money each month with this. Thanks for watching.